Howdy, everybody. This is Emmett Watkins Jr., also known as EJ Spun 61 on the internets, and I am here with another album review. This time, kind of a follow up to a previous review I did on Beyonce's Lemonade. Today, we're going to be talking about 444 by Jay Z, a new album that just came out. It's exclusive to Tidal right now, but if you're savvy, you can get it in other ways. But yeah, I want to talk about this album. I gotta be upfront with you. I know Jay Z's a legend. I've heard many of his songs, but as far as listening to complete albums from him, it's really not something that I've done until about Blueprint 3. I listened to that album all the way through. I listened to Magna Carta Holy Grail all the way through, and this album, of course, all the way through, especially since this one's only 10 tracks. Yeah, Jay-Z's he's always been a part of pop culture. He's always been a part of my life. I've always listened to music from him. But as far as like really absorbing myself into his music, I haven't really done much of that. And I know that's a shame because he's had 13 other albums before this one I'm about to talk about. So it's definitely worth it to go back to the catalog. I should probably do that myself. But yeah, he's been around for a long time, and definitely he shows that in this album. In many different ways, and he actually responds on some of the things that Beyonce talked about in Lemonade as well, which is somewhat scandalous. But without further ado, we're just gonna get right into the review here. With the first track of 444, Kill Jay Z. Now this track is very aggressive. It hits you. Ooh, sorry. It hits you in the face, like as soon as you start the album. You know, kill Jay Z. They'll never love you. You'll just never be enough. Just keep it real, Jay Z. Like fuck Jay Z. Like when he said fuck Jay Z, I immediately thought of the Ether diss track that Nas wrote many years ago, back when Jay Z and Nas were beefing. It came off as very like, of course, self-deprecating, but it was just like, wow, just really like going hard on himself. You don't really see rappers do that. This is kind of a diss track towards Jay Z himself, which I thought was very crazy and the last thing I would have expected from him, honestly. The beat on this one is very like very grand feeling, and very like almost Shakespearean tragedy feeling when I'm listening back to it. Kind of reminds me of like certain songs in the God of War series that just have that very epic sound, because it's kind of at the same time like an aggressive but also kind of despair filled. If you look through the lyrics in this song, there's a lot of reasons why that beat would match so perfectly. He's talking about, he makes references to a lot of stuff that's happened to him over the last few years. You guys remember when Solange hit on him in the elevator? He's talking about how he egged Solange on, knowing all along all he had to say was that he was wrong. What he's wrong about, we find out later in the album. Making references to, he even talks about Kanye in this song, talking about, he has a line where he says, you gave him 20 million without blinking, he gave you 20 minutes on stage, fuck was he thinking? That seems to be a clear, maybe not diss at Kanye, definitely talking about that event where Kanye went on stage for 20 minutes and just talked about a whole bunch of stuff, including Jay-Z for a minute, and then the whole please don't send shooters at my head thing, and then he canceled this whole tour. Like, that was obviously outrageous. But Jay-Z's just seen a lot, and I feel like that Kanye line is, a lot of people are taking that as a diss. I think it's more of a, it less that he's coming at Kanye. It feels like it's more like he's just addressing that was something fucked up to do, and I'm sure Kanye already knows that, and I'm sure he's already talked to Kanye privately about this. But of course it's on his mind. He has to put it in his music because an artist's life goes into the art a lot of the time. But yeah, that line was in there. And then another line that people are talking about a whole lot is in the future, other niggas playing football with your son. That everyone's saying that's a future diss. It's not a future diss. It's just a really clever line right there. He uses future because that gives you the imagery of Sierra going with another guy who's a football player. That gives you the imagery, because later on in the album, I'll go ahead and spoil it because it's just a video. You should go listen to the album. It confirms a lot of the rumors people had around Lemonade when Beyonce was talking about being cheated on and whatnot. Everyone's like, oh my god, Jay-Z slept with someone. what the hell happened? And sure enough, Jay-Z's using a lot of the same language as well. He literally in one song refers to, I can't mess with you, Becky. I got a family to go provide for. So it's like, oh my God, this guy actually cheated. But he shows remorse. He comes back around as a good, genuine dude by the end of this album. So yeah, when it says the line, in the future, other niggas playing football with your son, this is just him thinking about, man, my children could be possibly taken care of by another man, and that's just something he did not want to see. But yeah, Kill Jay-Z, very, very good track, coming right out the gate swinging. Just some hardcore stuff that he's spitting in these bars. And then that actually takes us to the next song, The Story of OJ. Now, The Story of OJ is very, like, kind of a somber track. Maybe not somber is the right word for it. When I hear this track, it makes me think of, like, old man sitting in a rocking chair, just, like, talking about all his regrets on life and, like, all his life up to this point. That's what the beat gives me impression of. And then Jay-Z's lyrics in this song definitely gives me that impression as well. The chorus, first off, sticks out a whole lot, with him saying light nigga, dark nigga, fox nigga, real nigga, rich nigga, poor nigga, house nigga, field nigga, still nigga. That is like very, now I've heard a slight bit of criticism for that chorus just because it's kind of on the nose, I guess. But it's also very, very effective. Like, it's not hard to understand what he's saying by that. No matter what you do, you're still just going to be seen as a black person in a lot of circumstances. And this guy is damn near a billionaire. If it's affecting him, then who's to say it won't affect any of us less monetarily successful people? But yeah, this whole song just kind of goes into, it talks about the black experience in general, more or less. And then Jay's just talking about, certain regrets that he's had. He actually talks about a property that he could have purchased. He could have purchased for a certain amount of money, and now it's worth like, 2, 3, 4, 5 times as much as it did back in the day. And how he wished, I wish I didn't buy all those cars. I wish I could have bought investments, pretty much. Like, this is the type of stuff this guy raps about. He's on such a different level from every other rap artist out there. And this guy doesn't rap about cars, money, or girls. He raps about, like, investments that he wish he had. And he spits a lot of knowledge. It seems like he's, like, trying to prophesize a little bit. Or maybe not prophesize, but definitely preach. Financial freedom is something that he talks about. He actually says in here, you want to know what's more important than throw away money at a strip club? Credit. You ever wonder why Jewish people own all the property in America? This is how they did it. And then, financial freedom, my only hope. It's very, I never really associate Jay-Z with, because this is like conscious rap territory. And for as much as I love Jay-Z, for as much as everybody loves Jay-Z, I personally never associated him with conscious rap. I don't know if this is a switch up from him, because like I said, I've only listened to the last 2 albums in entirety, and in every other album before that, I've gotten, every feature, or not every feature, every single from those albums. I've heard all of those pretty much. But yeah, this is I feel like this is new territory from him. I like it. If it's not new territory, I definitely need to take my ass back and educate myself. But yeah, it's very cool to see him talking some stuff like this. And he goes back into building for his family, talking about a piece of artwork that he bought for $1 million that's now worth $8 million, and how he can't wait to give it to his children. And also, I really appreciate the thing about Jay-Z. He's in the Songwriters Hall of Fame, so like he's a very good writer when it comes to this. So even though he doesn't always have the cadence of a typical rap song, where they have the same amount of syllables in every line to match up with the verse, he doesn't necessarily do that, but it seems like since he's actually trying to say something in the song, he'll have the rhyme at the end of the line, but he'll pack in a bunch of words in there just so he can continue the narrative. And it's very cool. It reads as more poetic it reads almost as poetry rather than an actual rap song, which I appreciate, or at least I think it's cool. So this song, The Story of OJ, very, very good song. And if you ever get the chance to watch the music video for it, it delivers the message of the song even more effectively. So yeah, this whole song's pretty great. The beat on there, even though I said, it makes me think of an old man in the chair, I really like the beat. It's an introspective beat, which I don't know how that's possible, but that's just the vibe I got from it. So yeah, this song is great, and that leads us on to song number 3 out of 10, "Smile." As a Stevie Wonder sample on this one, and the beat on here is actually, I feel it's kind of a banger. It definitely has those soulful ooh underneath everything, and then you got them trap hi hats and everything in the background. I think it combines to make a song that is very like, play it at the family reunion, get on your feet and turn up. Um, but yeah, I think the lyrics in here are very beautiful as well. This song is about his Jay Z's mother, actually. Reading in these lyrics, it seems like his mom, mom had 4 kids, including Jay himself, but apparently she was a lesbian all these years and didn't really come into this until somewhat recently. So the whole song is, about her struggle, to a certain degree. And then, in his last verse, he goes on and talks about some other things on his mind. But I really like his use of, once again, songwriter, Hall of Fame. I like how he wrote some of these lines here, especially verse 1 and 2 are more narrative focused, as I think verse 1 specifically goes into his mom a whole lot. Verse 2 is shorter than even verse 1. And it's just talking about how he's successful now, and the typical stuff that Hove likes to rap about in a lot of songs, but it is condensed to just a small fraction in verse 2 here. And then verse 3 is like so long. Like verse 3 is longer than verse 1 and 2 combined, which I appreciate, because he kind of really did just like go off in this verse. And this is some of the coolest rhyme scheme that I think he had. He has a lot of things where, here, let me see if I can find an example. Ba 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 ba. Yeah, I mastered my aesthetics. I know you often heard me wax poetic about being back in Alexis, but trust me, that was nothing. A nigga up in the hundreds of millions. I have no ceilings. That feeling, I'm that boy. And he rhymes 2 lines, and then he has a third line that's out of place until he rhymes the next 2 lines with it, and then another line that's out of place until he rhymes the next 2 lines with it. It's very, very cool how he does that. And that's a hallmark of a songwriter. That's like a very talented thing he does. And he does that a lot throughout this whole entire third verse. And I guess a little bit in verse 1 and 2 now that I'm thinking about it. But the third verse is really where it comes in. And even throughout this third verse, he has a lot of, clever lines in reference to the whole financial freedom thing. And since he's a black man in a state of success, ours was fuck you, pay me. Now it's fucking pay me. Fuck paying me, I pay you, put the rest away for blue. I think that was really cool, basically implying that he was looking for a handout from everybody else, and now people are looking to him for handouts because he's the man in charge, and then he still has so much more money that he can put the rest away for his children. I think that was pretty cool. Talking about the switching of the titles, I guess. Speaking of title, he talks about title directly. He says niggas will rip your shit off title just to spite you. I mean, I'm not even gonna lie, I didn't really get this album off a title initially. I eventually found a deal. Sprint has some promotion where you can just get the album for free, so I'm not even a Sprint customer, and I went and snagged that. So I have the album officially now, but I first heard this in a different way. So yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to spite Jay Z. I'm just a broke ass college student who's about to go to Texas and spend a lot of money anyway. So that's how that goes. So yeah, I thought that was a pretty clever thing. And just this whole thing, he has a reference to unfair weed laws and stuff. One of his friends got locked up for that. And black entrepreneurs, free enterprise. And at the end of his third verse, he actually, talks about, that's why they call it the black market. That's why it's called trap. That's why it's called the projects, because that's exactly that. He's spitting a lot of knowledge in pretty much this whole album, but this song too. And I think that's really neat. I think that's really appreciated. And yeah, Smile, probably my favorite song on the album. Definitely a banger. Definitely has some important lyrics along with the awesome beat on there. And it's definitely something that I enjoy. And then that goes on to our 4th track, Caught in Their Eyes. This one actually features Frank Ocean. And then it's kind of got a beat that feels very beachy, very like, it makes me think of what's that song that Jay and Beyonce did? It goes, hey. I forgot what it was, but I think it's on Magna Carta Holy Grail. The Run Part 2 or something. It's something like that. I'm really not remembering it right now, but it has a very like driving on the beach line type of vibe to it, to the instrumental at least. And then Jay Z is just talking more of his introspective stuff. And he comments a little bit on modern day rappers and modern day just topics in general. He talks about how he talked with Prince right before he died, and Prince told him his wishes. And then once Prince is dead, his estate has kind of been doing some shifty stuff now that he's out of the picture. I thought that was very, very daring, but he Hove keeps it real, so I appreciate that. And that's a damn shame for Prince's estate. That's upsetting, but yeah, man, we got a lot of stuff. This feels more like a big theme in this album. I feel is Jay-Z having lived all of this time in his life, having seen so many things. Now he's just relaying the knowledge that he's picked up in all these years, and I feel like this track, lyrically at least, is definitely another iteration of that. He's definitely delivering. He's definitely prophesizing a little bit more, preaching a little bit more. I guess whatever the correct term would be. But yeah, I think it's very cool seeing, especially because Jay-Z is not just known as a rapper, not just known as an entrepreneur, but he's kind of an icon in the black community. He is probably the most prominent, or at least one of the most prominent members of, black America. Like when you think, prominent black figures, Beyonce and Jay-Z are probably the first couple that come into your head at least. So yeah, it's really cool to see him speaking from that elevated perspective and, speaking plainly, not speaking in too much flowery language. A lot of people, flowery language has kind of been redefined because, some people have problems just with typical rap lyrics. But Jay-Z comes down to our level to tell us to spit some game. Like he said in the previous song, The Story of OJ, he's trying to give us $1 million worth of game for $9.99. Or free if you're me. But yeah, I thought this track caught in their eyes. I thought this track was awesome. Frank Ocean definitely did his thing on it. The chorus on here was definitely catchy, and I definitely enjoyed it. And yeah, that song goes on to the title track, the highlight of the song, and it is 444. Now, this is track 5, and this is kind of the, I want to say, climax of the album. The Kim Burrell intro, or not intro, but the Kim Burrell, like, I guess, feature on here, is very, no, it's not feature, sample's the word I'm looking for, because they use her voice as the beat. This beat doesn't really have much traditional instruments. It's really just like a cut of a song and someone's solo in it, just being played on loop. It sounds basic, but it's actually very, very beautiful and very, very effective. This song kind of has like a haunting, like that feeling you get when you're jolted out of sleep in the middle of the morning, just full of passion and everything. And that actually is very accurate to the song itself, because the song is named 444 because Jay-Z woke up at 4:44 in the morning and wrote this song very, very, just poured all his emotion to it really quickly. And so this song is very, very, even more aggressive, or not even aggressive, but it's more maybe self-deprecating than Jay-Z. He goes into a lot of things about himself personally. He has a history with women even before Beyonce. So this is him basically apologizing to all the women he's had, all the women he's, had problems with and has done wrong by. Apologizing to, his wife Beyonce for him not being emotionally available and everything else. And I don't know if he has some lines here. I still mourn this death. I apologize for all the stillborns because I wasn't present. Your body wouldn't accept it. I'm not sure if there were actually stillborns involved or if that's a metaphor or something, but it's still a very effective image. He's basically just saying, I'm sorry for all the mistakes he's made with the women in his life. And I think that's very impressive seeing from Jay-Z. I normally don't associate him with this type of talk. But yeah, he goes in on himself in that first verse, and then Hannah Williams, the feature. The Hannah Williams chorus in the middle goes on, and then verse 2 comes back, and then he's going into a little bit more about his relationship with Beyonce specifically. and how he doesn't want things to be, bad between them. He doesn't want to separate, but he also doesn't want them. He doesn't want them to stay together and then have this wall up between them emotionally forever. And he talks about how he's fucked up a lot because he himself did not have a father. He didn't have a template to put all these things onto, or to take all these things from, I suppose. And so he talks about how he sucks at love and he thinks he needs a do-over. But one of my favorite lines in this whole track is right at the end of verse 2, where he's like, I'd be emotionally available if I invited you over. I stew over, and then he like pauses. But what if you over my shit? Like, it's very like trailing off because he's thinking about that possibility and how much that would not be something he would want. It's very beautiful. And then verse 3 is a little bit shorter than the last two verses, and it's talking about, what if his children find out about his, infidelity. His children, he doesn't even know what he would do to them. He'd probably die from the shame and everything. And he regrets the day when his children do grow up, because the internet exists. He addresses that. The internet exists, and you go online and see for Blue's Tooth, the tooth fairy didn't pay. Like, I know that's supposed to be a metaphor to when the children grow up, they can get on the internet and look all this stuff up and then ask all these questions to their parents themselves, because I doubt they're going to be specifically sheltering them from answers like that. But, once they get out into the world, there's really no control in them. And so it's just talking as if is he going to be ready for when that day comes, because that day is inevitably going to come, because both of the parents have already talked about some infidelity on their album. So all of us can only assume that this shit's true now. So yeah, 444, just a wonderful track, gorgeous instrumental, the most introspective and honest that we've ever seen Jay Z, I believe. And it's definitely something like the album deserved to be titled after this track, because this track is on another level. It's a completely different type of Jay-Z that I'm just not used to seeing, and I really like this Jay-Z. I really can't say anything else good about it. It's great. But yeah, that takes us on to the next track, Family Feud. Family Feud is going to be the 6th track here, and I like this one because of, I think it's actually Beyonce's vocals on the instrumental here. It definitely sounds like it. It's her vocals being used, which I think is cool, coming right after 444, where it's so much about the relationship, and then on this song she kind of hops on it to provide a little bit of vocal assistance. But yeah, Jay-Z just talks a little bit more about how his family can't break up, but he also talks a lot about just modern day things happening in the rap community. He has lines like, and you old niggas stop acting brand new, like Tupac ain't have a nose ring too. Basically calling out people who are criticizing all these new age rappers that completely change up the style, completely change up all the aesthetics of rap nowadays. And how, Tupac was controversial in his time as well, I'm sure. And there are rappers, from all types of generations that were probably considered unlike anything else at the time. But somebody has to try new things, so that's more or less what Jay-Z's saying here, and I appreciate him calling that out, because even though I personally don't like a lot of the quote-unquote new rappers, I do not want them to, disappear entirely. I feel like they should stay there, because if people like them, then hey, that very well be the movement, and I might just be left behind in that, and I'll just keep listening to my Kendricks and my Eminems and whatevers. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And yeah, I like how he plays with his wealth a lot. I think in this song he actually says, there ain't no such thing as there's no such thing as an ugly billionaire. I'm cute. And him very cheeky, him saying that, because he's probably seen the memes where people are like, how did he get with Beyonce? But I thought it was pretty cool. And then he's just, more so just reacting to the rap climate in general in a lot of different lines. And he's actually referencing, oh yeah, and this is actually the song that he says, yeah, I'll fuck up a good thing if you let me. Let me alone, Becky. A man that don't take care of his family can't be rich. I watched Godfather and I missed that whole shit. That's really crazy, because Becky, of course, is the artificial name that Beyonce used in Lemonade to talk about a woman that her husband had an affair with. So yeah, Becky's canon. I guess that's what we've come to terms with. So yeah, that's pretty crazy. And now everybody's trying to figure out who Becky is. Now, the internet has said that Becky is one specific woman who I will not name here. Um, but it's really not something that is accurate, or at least not completely proven. They have, because Becky with the good hair, of course, so people are assuming, okay, she's probably white. So they think they have her down. So everybody's come after her and everything, but I really don't want to feed into that. The main thing is, it seems like both Beyonce with her album, she came back around on Jay, and then Jay Z in his album, he's come back around to being faithful and realizing what's important, realizing family is what's most paramount in life. So it seems like Becky's no longer going to be an issue, which thank God. And then of course, a man that don't take care of his family can't be rich. That's something he's realizing. He's realizing he needs to buckle down, care about his family, do right by his family, like forget everything else that could possibly get in front of that. And of course, Godfather is something that taught him that. So yeah, this track, Family Feud, great instrumental on this one, very soulful, just like a lot of the other previous tracks, especially the track right before this, very, very soulful. And just lyrically, he's saying some relevant shit that I appreciate hearing his opinions on. So yeah, it was great. Then we get to Bam. Bam has Damian Marley featured, and it has like a reggae tone vibe throughout. Now I think the intention for this song was supposed to be a banger. The instrumental is definitely very loud and aggressive, but me personally, I just don't get enough of a banging beat here for it to be a very like crazy, like everyone get up out of your seats and wail your arms. I'm just not feeling it. I like lyrically, I enjoy what he's saying. This is a more braggadocious track from Jay Z. This is him, calling out other rappers a little bit more. Let's see, blah 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 blah. Yeah, he talks about a lot of different things, such as, so when you, I can't take no threats. I got a set of twins. Those were just the words you'll never hear again. And so he's just talking about how, he makes references to the fact that he has kids. And, he's talking about how rappers are always on Instagram and how they, everyone loves to send death threats nowadays, but none of them actually gonna pull up. So it's kind of interesting how he's calling these rappers out for the bullshit that they perpetuate. And so I thought that was really cool. And a lot of this seems to be the only track in which, throughout this whole track, he's talking about his personal relationships, his own mother, with her changing sexuality, or at least acceptance of her sexuality. He's talking about all these things that relate to him personally. This is really an album by Sean Carter, but Bam is pretty much the only track on here in which he's speaking from the perspective of Hove. And you can actually see this in the chorus. At the end of the chorus, he says, "Folk all this pretty Sean Carter shit, nigga, Hove." Like, he's making it clear that this is the braggadocious track. This is the track in which he wants to come at other rappers, because he is, like, one of the greats. He's definitely a living legend at this point, or has been a living legend for a long ass time. So yeah, this is the one where he's coming for blood, and it's very, very cool to see Jay-Z in this more aggressive light, especially when you compare it to the rest of this album. Yeah, he'll, he just talks more braggadocious stuff like, "Oh, Bobby Smurda, anybody you heard of, nigga could not be further. I father your style, birth of a nation, that Turner style." I think these are pretty dope lines. He definitely knows what he's talking about. Songwriting chops come in once again. He puts in a lot of pop culture references, not just in this song, but throughout the whole album. A lot of pop culture references that are relevant to a lot of things that black people care about. Birth of a Nation being the movie everyone was talking about, but not everyone saw for some shady reasons that I really don't know about. But yeah, it was definitely a good song, Bam. Like I said, I think this is supposed to be the most wild track on here. But for me personally, it just didn't have enough. I guess I'm just missing bass, because it's really just a bunch of hi-hats and some reggaeton-esque sirens. I'd like a bass line on here or something. I'm just not feeling it. The instrumental itself, I'm not feeling it as much as I feel like I should be. But lyrically it's great, and the instrumental doesn't really do anything to detract from the lyrics. So I like this one. This one's a pretty good one. That takes us on to the next track, Moonlight. Now the thing about this song, which I like right off the bat, talked about pop culture references just a minute ago. The chorus goes, "We stuck in La La Land." But the title of the song is called Moonlight, so I thought that was a cheeky reference to the 2016 Oscar flub that happened. And so this is more just talking, more going at rappers again, going at modern day rappers. Y'all got the same fucking chicks, and then making references to, I'm in a skirt with you, yeah right, I'm in a skirt with you, cool story, I'm on the chit, none of this. And so he's basically referencing how rappers like to talk about chart numbers, how they like to talk about how many women they're with, how they talk about how what cars they're in. It's kind of hilarious how he talks about this, and he's more or less calling them out like he's their dad. Like, he sunned every rapper in the game pretty much by just being himself. So he's talking about how, like, man, y'all still on this and y'all still signing record deals after everything that they stole from you, after what they did to Lauryn Hill. Lauryn Hill, of course, got sued by her own label for using their songs and production skills and failing to credit them properly. And she's had other problems with, record labels and stuff, but talking about Lauryn Hill. And then, of course, when he asks you, people are still signing deals, that might be like a subliminal reference to Chance the Rapper. He's very highly known for being independent, so that might be a cool little shout out to him. But yeah, this whole song is pretty great. And then the Fugees sample in the background of this one is very cool. No ID, producer on this whole album, is very, very cool. What he did on this album, he takes a lot of samples and kind of tweaks them to play them out as a beat throughout the whole song. So here's another example of that. Moonlight, very, very solid track. Definitely something I've been listening to, pretty constantly throughout the rest of this album. And then we go on to Marcy Me. Marcy Me, similar to Story of OJ, has a instrumental that makes me think, oh, this is more introspective, more looking back. Marcy Me is even a reference to a neighborhood, it seems, that Hove used to live in. So yeah, he's just talking about his life up to this point and how he's taken himself from the lowest to the highest position in life. So the instrumental is definitely emblematic of that. It's a very relaxed instrumental, very like, let me tell you a story, sit down young man type instrumental. And it's very good. And of course Jay's talking about, back when Ratchet was a Ratchet and a Vixen was a Vixen, kind of making reference to before they had slang terms for all this stuff. Like, people know Ratchet as a tool, now Ratchet is either a video game character or just a crazy woman. And then a Vixen had a different connotation as well. But yeah, he's talking, I like how he uses these comparisons to modern day slang as a way to indicate time passing. I thought that was really brilliant. And of course, he uses songwriting chops again. Has a lot of references in here, especially when he's talking about Lisa Bonet was a Beyonce of that day, and how Lisa Bonet was so highly sought after from her appearances in the Cosby Show and everything. And shoot, she still is if you watch the Cosby Show today, which I know is hard for people to do because of things happening with Cosby too. But yeah, it's definitely cool seeing this in here. Here I'm just reading through some of the lyrics right now. But yeah, he makes a lot of references in this song to just, random things happening. He actually makes a little Uzi Vert reference somewhat, where he says, fat laces in your shoe, I'm talking busting off the roof. Hold the Uzi vertical, let the thing smoke. Y'all flirting with death, I be winking through the scope. I feel like that line could be seen two different ways. Y'all flirting with death, I be winking through the scope. I think he's referencing how people always talk about death and are always referencing it. Maybe even rappers like Lil Uzi Vert. I can't really say I've heard any song from him except for his verse in Bad and Bougie. I don't know if that All My Friends Are Dead song is his. That might very well be him, but I'm not gonna comment on that because I'm not qualified. But yeah, how rappers talk about death a lot, but he's one that is actually about the action. So he'll be winking through the scope right there to flirt with you with the death. And then he could also be in the first part of that line, hold the Uzi vertical and let the thing smoke. He could also be referencing to, dude, just let Uzi be himself. Just let him hang. Like, you might not like his music and whatever, but like, don't fuck up his vibe. That could be what he means by let the thing smoke. But hey, that's something we're just reading into at this point. Overall, the song is very cool, very introspective bars from Jay Z once again. Not ragging on himself as much as in previous songs, but still a solid track. And then the dream at the end makes us remember why the dream is so sought after in albums like this. You know, I haven't heard a solo album or really song from him in a long time, The Dream. So definitely nice to see him on here, and he definitely comes through in expert form. And then at about 35 minutes in this commentary, we get into the last song, Legacy, featuring Blue Ivy Carver at the beginning. This is basically talking about how, you know, he wants to leave things for his family, wants to leave things for his children. Basically just wants to be a good dad at this point, and that's pretty much all he cares about. Like, this whole album is kind of dad rap personified, but it's actually lit though. Legacy, the beat on this one has a very like end credits of like Malcolm X or Selma or something. It has a very like black excellence legacy vibe, which I guess is accurate for the title. But yeah, it was just a very nice track to end on. The beat itself wasn't much of a banger, but I guess I wasn't really expecting that, seeing the lyrics and seeing the subject matter that he was talking about. But yeah, I really enjoyed this album. I really enjoyed that last song. I thought it was a great wrap up to the whole experience, and pretty much resubmitting that, you know, Jay-Z's in this for his family, for his wife, for his kids. He's not necessarily in it for us. He'll be happy to give us a bone. He'll throw us a bone with his opinions on modern rap culture, but he's really in this for his family. So I feel like that's kind of ominous for us. You know, does that mean we'll ever get another album from him? If he's not really doing it for the fans and the music, and he's doing it for his family, will that ever call for another piece of music to be put out by him? You know, Lord only knows at this point. But Legacy definitely is a heartwarming end to the saga that is 444, and definitely a great album. Something I highly recommend to you guys. So yeah, this Jay-Z album was definitely well worth the listen. I don't know what else to say about it. I feel like I've talked to death about it. I'm trying not to make this video 50 freaking minutes long, because I've been doing that a lot recently. But yeah, you guys, thank you for watching the video. Definitely listen to Jay-Z's album 444. It's definitely something new from Jay-Z, something I really didn't expect. And at 10 tracks, it's only about 36 minutes long, is definitely an easy listen. And I'll actually give you the link. There's a promotion going on Tidal.com. If you type in the promo code SPRINT, you can actually get the album completely for free, which is how I acquired it. If you go to 444.tidal.com, it'll take you there. And if you just type in, you know, SPRINT, you know, capital S and lowercase everything else, you get the album totally for free. This could date the video a whole lot, because this promotion very well could be over by the time you watch this. It depends on when I'm able to edit this video. I'm about to go to Texas for RTX, and I'm probably going to bring my laptop, so it depends on if I can get this edited either right before I leave, or, you know, sometime during Texas, or maybe even when I get back a week later. So we'll see, but I did want to get this review out to you guys, and thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you later. Adios.